Hey there, my fellow author. I'm Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer, an old soul kind of writer living my dream as a full-time author and authorpreneur. But I didn't start out living a confident, creative lifestyle. I struggled with the fears and the mental and emotional barriers that so often plague writers at all stages of their author career. But the truth is that with the right knowledge, tools, and training, you can overcome those barriers. I'm here to teach you how I've developed a lifestyle that's allowed me to publish 19 books and counting. Each week, as you tune into the Confident Fiction Author podcast, you'll get clarity on the steps you need to take to advance your writing career. Whether it's developing your ideal writing routine, tackling new skills like dictating your fiction, or overcoming the obstacles life throws your way, this podcast will help you live a more confident, creative lifestyle. Let's get started. Hey there, my friend, and welcome to this week's episode of the Confident Fiction Author Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer, and today I'm going to be talking about the broken emoji. So a little while back, I was texting someone and I wrote the word broken. Actually, I think I was dictating it. But you know how it will put that kind of squiggly line underneath a word? It's one, if it's spelled incorrectly, but two, if it's has a substitute emoji, like you put in tree or Christmas and it brings up a Christmas tree or something, or star, and then all these star options come up, or heart. And so you can tap the word and change it into an emoji if you want to. So I was texting someone and I had the word broken in there, and it was just using it as, just something was broken. And it did the squiggly line underneath it. And I was like, well, what's the substitute emoji for broken? So I tapped on it and it showed a mad, either a mad face, the really red mad face, or just this angry face as a replacement. And I thought how odd that it would, for the word broken, that it would show, an angry face emoji that you could replace it with. It did make me think, though, how emotions that come when we're broken, thinking about the emotions that come when we're broken, that anger or that sadness that dominates during those times, especially in the initial process, or like the grief process, or anywhere in the grief process. It doesn't have to be at the beginning, where you just have that brokenness and that anger as a part of it. And so I wanted to come close and talk a bit about this as confident fiction authors, and that's what we're striving for, and what I want to give you examples and all that you can do to become a more confident fiction author. And that is really hard to do when you are broken and when you do have that sadness or that anger. And what I want to talk about in here is how that can inform our characters and how it can inform our stories, and also ways that you can write in your brokenness, how you can write your brokenness, and also writing after brokenness. So, like I said, let's just come close here for this episode, and let's get into this broken emoji and how that informs where you're at as a confident fiction author. Let's get into it. All right, so first off, we all know as fiction authors, we do pour part of ourselves into our stories. I often have that question asked whenever I'm given a presentation, or when I meet a reader out in the wild. They will ask me, how much of yourself is in that story, or that specific character, or that incident that happened? Like, is that based on any truth in your own life? And I have to say, oh, no, of course not. No, really. I tell them, I usually say that, something like that. But then I tell them, there is a little bit of me in every story. And then I like to give disclaimers on that specific story, like, hey, my mom was never that way, or my dad was never that way, or my siblings were never that way. Like, I didn't have those, exact traumas or something from, especially my own family. I like to give those disclaimers, like I'm not, taking someone in my life and I put them in a fictional setting and like tearing them up and stuff. So I do give those disclaimers, but I do let people know, my readers know, that yes, I do put bits of myself in these characters, and I will often go on a transformational journey with the story that I'm writing. It will be whatever is going on in my life. Sometimes that turns out to be the dominant theme in a story. And that was the case, especially in book 5 of my Choctaw Tribune series, my most recent book in that series, of that theme of forgiveness. And so I was going through a lot of things with my own forgiveness journey, and that was coming through in the characters in a much stronger way than I realized. It was not in my outline. And that just started developing as a theme whenever I was going back and editing. I didn't even know it was in there until I was editing. And then I was like, wow, this is the theme of the book. And so I brought it in the editing process. I was able to bring it more to the forefront. But that was writing in my brokenness. That's what I like to share with readers, that yes, bits of me are in there, my brokenness and the journeys that I'm on personally throughout my life. So with that, you may be asking, should you write in your brokenness? Like if you are in a place right now in life that you're feeling broken, maybe you've gone through a major trauma like a car accident or a divorce. And I shared in a couple of episodes back that my mom and I were in a car accident this spring. And it was not nearly as traumatic as some people who go through accidents, but those things can be life-changing. You may be hospitalized for weeks or months and have this long road to recovery. You may have received a diagnosis that you're now having to go through treatments. I've been a caregiver for multiple family members who have gone through severe illnesses and cancer and all the things. So I know there are those places where we have that brokenness. And do we keep writing? Another friend of mine, she had multiple deaths in her family and those close to her all in 1 year. And it was really traumatic. It was just like one person after the other. And she experienced a lot of brokenness during that time that she had to eventually take a break from writing. And she was a very consistent writer. I love her and I love her consistency. And she just had to take a break and go to a different art form for a while. She got into painting, which was amazing that she was able to pour some of that into her painting when she couldn't write. So you may be asking yourself, do you write while you're right here in your brokenness? And what I say is you need to go with how you're feeling, how you're doing. It may be a time to step away and take that break. Know too that you can also write something different. If you're in that brokenness and maybe the genre that you're currently write, that's your brand, it's your pen name, it's what you focus on, it's what your readers are expecting. Maybe you need to take a break from that genre and write something maybe humorous. Maybe if you've never tried humor, maybe trying that. And not saying that it has to be something totally different from what you're going through, but it could be. It could be that you are writing something that just gives you that relief and it gives you an escape yourself to be able to go into and write. So you can write in your brokenness. I have done it, but I have also taken a break whenever I'm just going through too much and I'm like, I just need some time off and not do any writing. So if I do it, I've also written things that are completely outside of my genre. So I did with the friend that I was talking about, we've done co-writing together, and we were writing this medieval series, and it was it was historical, but it was completely different from what I was going for with ultimately with my brand. And so we were able to co-write. And when my dad passed away, she told me, she was like, hey, we can totally take a break and not do this right now. And I said, no, I want to keep writing. Like, this is one, I want to finish the story. 2, this just feels more normal world, and I want to continue our co-writing. I want to keep writing even in the midst of this brokenness, and thinking about that broken emoji and having the anger, having the sadness and all. So I was very much in that place, but I wanted to keep writing. And so thankfully I was able to write something completely outside of my genre, and I had a co-writing buddy. So it was able to it wasn't on my own to do it. So if you are writing in your brokenness, maybe having someone that is writing with you, or that you just go and sit with and y'all do co-writing sessions at a coffee shop or online, and just having someone else there for that support during your time, if you want to keep writing, can be so valuable. It certainly was for me. The other thing is writing your brokenness. So This is not writing in your brokenness. You may still be in it, and you're going to decide, do I put my brokenness into my story right now? Like, I am in this place. This is what I'm going through, and I want to just pour this into my characters. I want to pour this into my story. I may be even going in a completely different direction from my outline or something, but I really want to write my brokenness into this story. You may feel hesitant to do that because it does feel vulnerable. It does feel like you are exposing so much rawness and so much emotion and so much brokenness in your story that honestly feels a bit private. It feels like something that you don't want to share publicly with the world. Here's what I want to say if you're feeling that, though. If you're really feeling like you need to put your brokenness into your story, is go ahead and do it. This is a first draft. And if you've been around the podcast or any of my other trainings for very long, you know that I'm an advocate for that messy first draft. Get in there, make it a mess. Let there be great battles between good and evil. Just let it be raw and realistic, fantastical. Whatever you create, just let it be and put it into that story. Not everything in life is nice and sweet, but put things in there that are true. And I love what Alan Arnold, I have read a lot of his material, and he talks about that. He talks about taking the pressure off of yourself and just letting that truth and that creativity come through and basing it on things that you've actually lived. And one of his sayings is, you can't tell a better story than the one that you're living. And he talks a lot about being co-creators with God and letting those stories, the story of our life, come through in the stories that we're writing. And I love this other quote that he has that says, though your finished art might comfort people, the creation process isn't meant to comfort you. It is costly, requiring a sacrifice of time and emotion as you enter the unknown. Yet what you and God create together will infuse beauty, life, and order into the chaos. And for me, that's what brokenness is. When you're writing the mess in your story, and maybe you're still in that brokenness, it can feel like a mess. It can feel like chaos. But there's so much genuineness that will end up in that first draft that even when you go back and do the editing process, if you're like, oh, yeah, this is a bit too vulnerable, this is exposing my soul a bit too much, you can always trim it back. You can always go through that revision process and really question what you want to keep in there. What you might find, though, inside that messy first draft is truth and what you really want to convey to your audience. And you may find it's not quite as bad as what you thought it was for that messy first draft. And you end up leaving bits and pieces of that, of yourself in there that will transcend the story and really impact your reader. So just a bit on that, on writing your brokenness. I have certainly done that in my own stories, and sometimes I will scale them back in the revision process, but because I allowed that vulnerability in the first draft, that's what ultimately will come through and impact the readers. Okay, so the other thing you can do is writing after your brokenness. So this is where you've now healed. You've gone through the crisis, the trauma, the whatever it was that broke you, that caused that brokenness, and you have emerged on the other side. You have healed. You now have scars instead of oozing wounds, and you're now contemplating writing about that brokenness and writing from a place of drawing up the memories of what it was like to be in that brokenness, and then take your readers on that transformational journey to the point where they are able to come out and experience that healing that you have already experienced in your life. You're now standing on the mountaintop and pointing the way, the right paths for others who are climbing up after you. So writing after your brokenness, super powerful, and lots of authors do this in memoir style, and you can certainly do that. You can also do what they call fictional memoir, which some authors will go into because they don't want to actually be that vulnerable. They don't want to put all of their personal details in there. So they will write a novel that's basically based on their life or based on that specific brokenness that they want to take their readers through, and they'll fictionalize it. And I think that's a great way if you don't want to be public with what you actually went through, but you do have tremendous value to share with your readers, then I encourage you to look at that genre and look at doing a fictionalized memoir so that you can help other readers, help other people who can benefit from where you have come out of that brokenness. So you have a lot of value to offer. And if you've not felt confident in being able to do that, fiction, that's the great thing about it. Even though people kind of suspect that, like I said, I've had readers ask me, was this real experience? Like, did you write from real experience? Even if they suspect that, it just feels so much safer putting it into fiction. You're still getting to express what you went through in your brokenness, which is very therapeutic, but it is in a safe way because it is fiction. And at the same time, you're having a influence emotionally for your readers in their experience with similar brokenness that they have gone through. All right, my friend, I just wanted to share that. This was a bit of a shorter episode, but with, like I said, recent trauma and other things that I've been through and thinking about that broken emoji and the anger and the sadness that can come through when we're broken, and just wanted to share how you can pour that into your writing, whether that's writing while you're in that brokenness, you're writing about your brokenness, or you're writing after you've come through that brokenness, and how you can impact your readers through each of those phases. All right, my friend, that is all for this week's episode of the Confident Fiction Author Podcast. I hope it's helpful for you, whatever you're going through right now, and I will see you in next week's episode. Take care.